Let me deal with this little technical difficulty real quick. All right, good evening. A couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. Due to the number of participants, participant microphones and webcams should be turned off. Should you have a question, please utilize the chat box and it'll be answered as we are able. This session is being recorded. Finally, there will be a survey sent out to all registrants after the session. Please take a moment to fill it out and provide valuable feedback. Now, before I turn the floor over to Commodore Thurlow, I'd just like to talk a little bit about the Women's Leadership Initiative. The Women's Leadership Initiative, or women in the Coast Guard and Coast Guard Auxiliary, we look at these percentages and see that they are underrepresented in these organizations. The auxiliary is right there in line with the reserve forces at 22%, and a little bit better than in the active duty, which is at 15%. The Coast Guard as a whole is committed to ensuring a diverse workforce. So the Women's Leadership Initiative is one of what we call affinity groups. These affinity groups are not official Coast Guard organizations. Rather, they are recognized advocacy groups whose members are in the Coast Guard. They work towards a common goal. And because they're not official organizations, it provides a wider range of latitude in what activities can be conducted, as well as break down some of the barriers that can be created by strict adherence to the chain of leadership. We all know what a difference it can make when going from a single voice fighting for change up the chain versus when those voices can combine across all levels of the organization. The Women's Leadership Initiative was established in 2012, and it officially became an affinity group in 2017. The goal of the initiative is to support Coast Guard women and men in their professional development and provide mentorship opportunities within the service and even beyond into the rest of their personal lives. And they do this through empowerment and advocacy, creating opportunities, building and connecting networks, resources and support, and mentorship and coaching. The Women's Leadership Initiative has seen structurally pin changes made to policies such as the postpartum weight policy. That was a result of a symposium in Alameda. They've also seen the creation of the Coast Guard Reserve Readiness Task Force, which came from a 2018 Officer Women Leadership Symposium. They also support research and women's retention by providing a network of participants for organizations doing those studies. There are currently 20 chapters throughout the country. It's supported through the U.S. Coast Guard Academy Alumni Association, which is providing funding through developing an endowment fund, the use of a Zoom account, meeting registration, such as what you went through to get onto this webinar, graphic design for flyers, and a lot more. So that's how, that's why when you thought it was weird that we were going to the Academy Alumni Association website for this, that's that support there. And so I'm looking to stand up an auxiliary chapter for the WLI. But to do this, we're needing interested women and men to be involved in providing direction, planning activities and events, and being a voice for women in the auxiliary. We have so many women and men with fantastic experiences and fantastic connections. I want to make sure that we can utilize those to help us increase the diversity in the auxiliary. For me personally, I'm just one person with one perspective, and so I could really use some help. If you're interested in being involved with this, feel free to contact me. My email is there on the screen, as is my phone number, or there will be a place for you to indicate that on the post-event survey. And so without further ado, let me introduce Commodore Sue Thurlow. Commodore Thurlow joined the auxiliary in 2006. She moved to the lake. My notes here say a houseboat in the summer, and needed some friends. The auxiliary was a great way for her to be involved in the community up on the Canadian border. She served at all levels of elected leadership. She was Commodore in 9th Central for 2.5 years, and is now the immediate past Commodore. She's been on the instructor team for ASOC, the Senior Leadership Course. She does freelance teaching. She's served as DSO IS and Oxdata 2 online trainer for anyone who's asked her to do that. She's also the Marketing Division Chief for Public Affairs with direct liaison responsibilities to the Response Department. And finally, she serves on the uniform team for the upcoming uniform changes being discussed and possibly rolled out in 2021. So Commodore Thurlow, thank you for joining us.
Sure. Now I need to take control. That sounds so good. I'm going to take control. Here we go. Well, welcome everybody. I'm delighted to be here with you tonight. Have to learn how to run my computer. Our team for tonight, as you may know, is Julie, Carrie, who did the introduction for me. Thank you so much, Julie. We have Stephen Minitolo from the Office of BSX, Stan Feldman from the Auxiliary Fulfillment Center, Lieutenant Laura Delgado from the United States Coast Guard, and of course me. When I have finished making the remarks that I have for you using this presentation tonight, we hope to have a team together who will be able to answer your specific questions that I don't hit on. So you might ask yourself, how did you create this presentation you're about to give us? It was based on input from our members who said, I have a question. I'd like to know. So this is not a presentation of everything you ever wanted to know about uniforms in the auxiliary. This is a more tailored presentation for some of the new things that have rolled out recently and a little bit about women's uniforms. So I hope you're not disappointed because we've spent some time together to try and create something that would have value for those of you who have these questions. So as I present today, Julie's already hit it. Please mute your mics and keep them muted. Turn off your cameras. If you have a question, please put it in the chat. Commodore Slabo is watching the chat box and will interrupt me or hold the question until the end of the presentation, depending on whether she feels it's an immediate question or concern that needs to be handled. Please be sure and be prepared to ask questions that are of interest to all of our members who are attending, and not something that is particularly and specifically personal. Commodore Slaybaugh, if you are watching the list and you see someone's mic has accidentally become unmuted, please just scroll down the list and mute them. So I have on this screen a couple of pictures that give you the feel for the uniforms that we wear in the auxiliary. They're kind of bookends of uniforms that we wear in the auxiliary. On the left of my screen is a picture of me when I was a district captain, or maybe chief of staff, with my OTO attending NACON. On the right is just the absolute opposite of formality. I'm in ODUs with Onyx the dog, who is the star of a wonderful series of books based on Onyx and her adventures up in northern Michigan. So just a plug for the books, they're great, and it was just my pleasure to meet Onyx. So let's get started. In the past few years, the United States Coast Guard has made strides to adapt to its diverse membership. Membership in the Coast Guard, membership in the auxiliary, membership in their civilian staff, as well as the reserves, is changing. It's becoming far more diverse. And the auxiliary has adopted some of the same efforts to recruit a more diverse membership. We're proud of that. But in doing so, there are some questions that have come up, both on the active duty side, but also on the auxiliary side of things, that apply to our new, more diverse membership. And by the way, in the auxiliary, women are one of the demographics that have become more diverse for the auxiliary, more women. So the purpose of the workshop is this: to introduce you to the new grooming standards that came out as part of a Commandant's Letter of Instruction in July, hearkening back to the 2018 Uniform Board. A bit about uniforms that you may wear, questions that are maybe a little more down and dirty. And again, we're not going to be comprehensive, but I have a question for you. Is the next step to ask our auxiliary HR department to create a document that specifically addresses women's concerns? If you think so, please share that with your unit HR officer so that we can get the word up to the National HR Directorate that this is something we would like to see. I can tell you that in going to the auxiliary HR site on their wonderful uniform presentation, there were things missing that I think would be really helpful for especially our female members. So let's first talk about where to purchase uniforms. That seems to be the first question that members who join the auxiliary ask. And this doesn't matter whether what demographic you are. Things have changed since I joined the auxiliary in 2006. The Auxiliary Association and the Exchange are the two main suppliers for uniforms for auxiliarists. Buying from them has advantages for our organization, and they provide everything in the way of service dress and ODUs, but also formal wear. I would urge you to go to the Exchange, and there are 3 little bars up in the left-hand corner of the screen. Click on that, it's the menu, and you will see uniforms listed. When you go there, start scrolling through. There are many, many, many pages, and it's everything from soup to nuts as far as auxiliary uniform needs. The Exchange is a great resource for lots of things that is available to auxiliarists as a part of your membership. You'll have to log in with your member number and password, but it does take you to all of the uniform resources there. The second resource is the association, and there, if you click on more, drop down to shop, you have access to uniform accessories that are auxiliary specific. Those are the things that you need to make your uniform complete, and are, again, auxiliary specific. They have the little A and are easy to find on that association website. So here we go. One of the questions that was asked, why is it so important for leaders in the auxiliary to wear the uniform right? I answer with that. Have you ever seen an admiral wear the uniform improperly? Or a senior chief, a master chief at the station, or the CO of any unit? They wear the uniform properly. Why? I feel it's because they want to respect the uniform, they want to respect the Coast Guard, and they want to respect the core values of the Coast Guard. Not only that, public perception is incredibly important. And for us as auxiliarists, I think we can all agree that the public is not well schooled at the difference between the active duty and the auxiliary, making it incumbent upon us to respect and honor the uniform and respect the people we work with. The active duty, the reserves that we work with, for whom the uniform is a symbol of the greatness of the auxiliary. So I would like to encourage those of you who are unit leaders and those of you who aren't to think in terms of regular uniform inspections, either in private or as a unit or both. Think about this. When I leave the house in my trops, well, it doesn't matter. In my trops, in my dinner dress mess, in my ODUs, I always look in the mirror. I always make sure that I am honoring the uniform and honoring the service. When I get there, to the meeting, to the patrol, whatever it is, I like to look at the other people in the room or on the facility, but I also want them to look me over and do an inspection on how I'm wearing the uniform. This is how we get better. It's not about judgment, it's about getting better. So as leaders, I really encourage you to take it seriously. And as a person at the top of your unit or a person who's brand new to the auxiliary, be a great example to others. So what about the blue overblouse, also known as the A-line shirt? Terms are interchangeable. There are some questions with this that are unique to women. It's also called a maternity shirt. The main issue is, what do I do with my name tag, with my ribbons, and with my devices? The picture that you're looking at gives you a really good example of the way the overblouse works. Name tag on the right, one device above the ribbons. And where do they sit? That's a question I've asked, and I think everybody who ever bought one of these blue overblouses has asked, where does my stuff go? Notice in the picture that the ribbons, the bottom of the ribbons and the bottom of the name tag pretty much align with the third, at the top of the third button. So the first button is unbuttoned, then you have the second button and the third button, and if you look at the picture, you will notice that the name tag and the ribbons align just above the intersection of the third button going across the shirt. Are there any questions on that? Kathy, any questions?
No, ma'am, not on that topic.
Okay, you're kind of close to your mic there.
Oh, sorry about that.
No questions?
Nope.
Okay, great. All right, so let me give you a few more details. I've put this into the presentation in writing. This is a whole lot of words for people that aren't going to be listening to us tonight. The shirt is authorized because, to be honest, it's more comfortable. You don't have to tuck it in. You don't have to worry about, am I wearing my belt right? And it comes in both long and short sleeve. It's authorized by Wear for Auxiliary Women as an alternate to the shirt that I'm wearing tonight, which is the women's tropical blue shirt. Okay? If you want details on this, I've given the site, Aux Manual Chapter 10, D4. I've also shared with you on this page a little bit closer look at how your devices, ribbons, and name tag should look, plus the specifics of what you do with it in writing. Belts. For women in the auxiliary, belts are kind of a big deal, simply because women wear their belts differently than men. Now, let me tell you that I searched high and low, and there is nothing in the Aux manual on how you should wear your belt. Something of interest may be that there are lots of these belts out there that have the auxiliary logo on them. And because of what I'm showing you on the screen, you can't wear those. Ladies, we can't wear them. Because in order to make the belt match up with what you're seeing on the screen, the logo would be upside down, and probably not a great idea. So this screen does two things for you. It shows you what the quote unquote gig line should look like, wearing a women's shirt and a belt. Now the one that I'm showing is golden color. Ours are silver. On the Oxay site or on the exchange site, you can buy the silver belt, tab, and buckle. So what's important for you to know that as you look at this is a mirror image for you. The tab touches the wearer's right side of the buckle. Align the left side of the buckle, and here it is, the gig line, the opening of the shirt, the opening of the fly on your pants, and the forming of a straight line to make the gig line. This brings up a question that I hope somebody will write down for the panel at the end. And that is, what happens if I'm wearing a shirt, a tropical blue shirt that is not a female shirt, which has the tab over the buttons, or I'm wearing men's pants where the zipper zips the opposite way with a shirt that does have the tab over the buttons. How do we make that work? So please write that down, because that is something I think we need some practical help on. There are lots of combinations, and we need help on how to line our gig line up and how to make that work for auxiliary women. Any questions on that?
Sue, there was a question about skirts and a belt. Since there are no belt loops on the skirt, it is presumed that that you don't wear a belt with it.
That would be correct. That would be correct. Even though it sounds obvious, it's not. That's a great question. So thank you for that. Okay, moving on. We're getting now into some specific information that came out in the Commandant's Letter of Instruction, M10K.6K. Did I say M1020.6K? Note that the date on this is 7 July 2020. So this is, by Coast Guard standards, hot off the presses. I have shared where you can get it. So copy and paste this link into your browser, and it will pop this document up. This document is many pages long, but it is an incredibly wonderful document that has information on everything Coast Guard uniform, auxiliary uniform, that you would want to know. If I were giving an all morning or an all evening presentation, this is the document I probably would have used to create my presentation. So let's start out with covers or hats. For the auxiliary, you're looking at pictures of the hats that are authorized. The combination cap. Over on the right-hand side, the formal cap, of possible interest to you at the last uniform board, there was agreement that they were going to pilot a project for women's hats, combination caps, that are more similar to what the men wear than the current women's cap. I believe that the Navy has done this, and with some success. So the question is always, when we look at changes of uniform, I just paid, literally, my district paid about $200 for a combination cap for me when I became Commodore. Do I have to throw that in the garbage? And typically the answer is no, you may wear it until it is no longer serviceable. There may be an end date 20 years down the road, no promises, but the typical instruction is you may wear uniforms in the auxiliary until they are no longer serviceable. Faded, wrinkled beyond repair, ripped, torn, you get that. So that's the skinny on the combination cap as far as I have heard it so far and what I can read from the uniform board. Interesting tidbit for you. One of the places I see hats become controversial is when auxiliarists wear them into a galley. And I don't know what it is about us. We routinely put our caps on the table. Just a tidbit of etiquette for all of you out there. Please don't put your hats on the dining table. There's a tradition that goes back, as I understand it, to the Civil War, where the galleys were used as operating tables. And they were didn't want people putting their hats and caps on the operating tables. And this has carried forward as a tradition in the military services. We see a lot of it with ball caps that you see there, but also combination caps. The alternative for the combination cap is what's called the Garrison Cap. It's pretty cool. It's easy to place it on your belt and have it out of the way, but always available. And you can put your office device on the right-hand side of that cap. Okay. There was a question that came up. You're looking at two styles of hats that protect you more from the sun than a ball cap. These are for patrols and so forth. I might mention on the caps that the ball cap and the boonie and the tilly, which is what you're looking at there, are only authorized for wear with the ODU. And I might go so far as to say that the boonie and the tilly are more of a out on patrol type cap rather than wearing it with your ODU all over, although that's just my opinion. So take it for what it's worth. Stan is going to speak to you on a little bit about combo caps, where to get them, how to wear them, and so forth when we're done, when I'm done. So those are caps. It's looking like the boonie is one that is worn without any devices or the U.S. Coast Guard auxiliary embroidery on it. All right. It's a big topic. When I was in college, we had big hair. This is just hair, but lots of changes to hair. Hair bulk has been increased now to 3.5 inches. I love this, as measured perpendicular to the scalp. This is an increase that came out in Uniform Board 48. It was less in Uniform Board 47. If you can imagine going to the bakery in town and buying a jelly-filled donut, that's about what the size is. Now, if you were at the academy or at a station, that they might measure it, but just kind of think about having a donut plastered on the back of your head, and that's sort of the look that they're going for with a 3.5 inch diameter. Ethnicity differences have been addressed, and we'll be looking at some pictures that will show you what this is all about. Ponytails are allowed, but not to extend beyond the bottom of the shirt collar. If the hair is at a length where that requirement can't be met, then the rules call for it to be pinned, the bottom of the ponytail to be pinned to the neck hair to maintain the limit. Something that we have seen in the auxiliary is what they would refer to, the Uniform Board would refer to as lopsided asymmetrical, unblended, untapered, or undercut hairdos. This is a situation where I'm going to try and describe it for you. Half of a person's head is shaved or nearly, and the other half is maybe 4 inches long. And that would be considered asymmetrical or lopsided. They're looking for attractive hairdos in a traditional sense. And I think you're going to get the feel as we move on here that what the Coast Guard is looking for is a conservative appearance. And while we don't all agree that we want to be that conservative, that's what the Coast Guard is looking for. There are specific rules that I'm not sure I understand for cornrows, braids, locks and twists, and I'm going to show you some pictures, but I think you'll get the feel of what this is all about again, and if that's a hairstyle that our members want to have, then they'll understand what the 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch means between the rows and so forth. Big news, hair claws are now authorized in black, blue, brown, or similar to your hair color. The only caveat with them is that you still have to be able to wear your official headgear, your cap. So if you're going out on patrol, you need to be able to wear your ball cap. We have somebody who, please. Here are some pictures of what it should look like. Kathy, can you mute?
I don't have mute capabilities.
Oh, okay, we got it. All right. So this comes right out of the commandant's instruction as a grooming item, and the pictures and the words on the right, the policy on the right. Again, I've printed out with the document into the document so that if this document goes someplace, all of the information is there. So here's how we wear our hats. We don't wear them over the bun in the back. We wear them straight on, whether we have a bun or not. I've been asked about bangs. Hair cannot fall below the eyebrows or the front edge of the cap or hat if you're wearing one. Hair must not fall, for women, below the bottom edge of the collar. And this is interesting because in times of COVID, I don't know about some of you out there, but my hair is a little longer than I normally wear it in the back. And I've had to be a little careful to make sure it stays above the bottom edge of my collar. Obvious things. Your hair has to be clean. It has to be neat. You can't look like you don't care. Hair coloring, if it's used, must not look like the waitress over at JJ's Diner in Rockport, Texas, who I noticed on Sunday morning had multicolored hair. Bright pink, bright yellow, and bright green. It was amazing. Hair must not have shaved decoration patterns. So if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan, you can't put their logo in your hair, so in your hairstyle. So too bad about that. Your hair must not contain ornamentation other than what we've already basically talked about. Questions on that? I think the most one of the things I've seen the most of as an issue for auxiliary women is that they don't wear their caps straight. They tend to wear them back on their head. So that's something to pay attention to. One of the things that I'm going to deviate now from my from my presentation, but one of the things that came up as a question was, what do you do as a leader if you have a member that doesn't look good in the uniform? A couple things come to my mind. That needs to be handled at the lowest level possible. So in the case of a flotilla member, the HR, the FSO HR, Human Resources, is the first call for help. At that point, flotilla vice commander, flotilla commander, again, this is a place where you sit down and do some counseling. Talk about this. Talk about the things we talked about in the beginning. Respect for the uniform is equivalent to respect for the service in many ways. So it's important, and sometimes members don't understand that it is important. How you wear the uniform is important to the people that you're working with, particularly active duty. And we know that the active duty sometimes has concerns about us. So it's incumbent upon us and our leaders to make sure that we are doing those regular uniform checks and we are helping members to understand what they need to do. So let's just go on.
Sue, there is a lot of questions happening in the chat about hair. So
Okay.
I honestly think that this a great follow-up to this evening would be some more specific answers about hair.
I'm going to give some now, and I agree with you. So let's take a look at some examples. I can't see the chat because my presentation takes up my whole screen on my little computer. The commandant's letter of instruction is fairly clear. So here are some styles that are authorized. And again, I've left the written word on the right for you to see. There's another one. Here are some examples of different hairstyles that fit the requirements. These are authorized. You get to see the ponytail in living color right there. And I think it's really interesting that ponytails can now protrude through the rear opening of the ball cap, which back in the day when I had hair long enough to have a ponytail, that would have been pretty neat. So again, lots of information on these pages that I'm not going to read to you, but is available to you in this document as it relates to hair. Kathy, do you think that's helpful or?
I do. There was specifically a question about the ponytail through the ball cap. Some questions about following up on the bangs question.
I think that's pretty clear.
Mm-hmm.
Let me pop back up to that page. Hair cannot fall below the eyebrows. That
Okay,
to me
that
would be
answers-
bangs.
That answers it.
Except when you're wearing a hat, and then you got to push them back. I have bangs.
So bangs are allowed without a cap. If you're wearing a cap, your bangs should be under the cap.
That is my interpretation.
Okay.
I mean, hair cannot fall below the eyebrows. That's, I think, pretty clear. But our A team, who are going to be answering questions, that might be a great one to ask tonight. Okay.
All right.
Thank you. I'll move on here because I'm probably got Julie going crazy, running out of time. Here's just some pictures of the hair claws, a little bit about wigs and hair pieces. Obvious stuff. If they're worn, they need to be, they need to fit, they need to be conservative, and they need to look natural. But you can't wear them if they're a safety hazard. You know, if you're going to be sticking your head down in the back of the boat and they might get caught on the lines, I'm not sure. not so good. Same thing with cosmetics as far as the trend that I'm trying to get to you here. If worn, needs to look natural, can't be blue, green, yellow, pink. It has to be fairly conservative. And that's that piece that my mission is to let you know you can do your own thing, but in uniform, it has to be fairly conservative. Here are a couple of examples of unauthorized items. You can't wear scrunchies that are pink and yellow and green and blue. This is that same set of colors. Plus, hair accessories that are not authorized include headbands, sweatbands, that kind of surprised me, devices that are conspicuous, excessive, or decorative. The idea is the uniform speaks of who you are. But so anything that draws a lot of attention from the uniform is not authorized. Also, if you have braids, cornrows, that kind of thing, ribbons, beads, and other decorative items can't be used. Okay? A little bit about jewelry. This hasn't changed. It's the same. You may have gold, silver, or pearl earrings, and I just got a picture of them there. Diamonds on the dinner dress formal uniform. No piercings that show. And now there was quite a bit of language about this, but what they're talking about here is eyebrows, nose, tongue, lots of piercings on your ears where you're wearing earrings up your ears, that kind of thing. Once again, it's the conservative look. Bracelets, watches, ID bracelets, and rings. There are very specific rules that are associated with some of this. But with rings, you may have no more than 2 on one hand. You may not wear a ring on your thumb. Bracelets are okay if they are for a specific reason, like a medical bracelet. Watches need to be conservative. Now, I can tell you that Admiral Noonan wears an Apple Watch and with a blue band. And I bought a band just like hers because then I knew I was good to go. But again, they're hoping that, they're not hoping, they're telling you that you're not going to wear an orange band with your Apple Watch or whatever watch you have. It needs to be more conservative. So there's my last line: conservative, non-controversial, and in good taste. And that's a theme. And I can jump forward and say political things. Don't do it. Not allowed. Anything that's controversial, they want you to stay away from. And I think we can all understand that. Okay, nails. No. Not that nails must be clean, but the rules regarding nails have relaxed. And here they are. They need to be rounded or straight, not spiked or indented or anything odd. The color, and here we have a little bit of wiggle room, is to have a professional appearance. Take that for what it's worth. But they have to all be the same color. No fluorescence or multicolors. 1/4 of an inch extension in length beyond the fingertip is considered what you can do. You're not allowed to put gems, painted pictures, so no American flags, or designs on your fingernails. However, French nails are allowed as long as the white portion of the nail is no more than 1/4 of an inch. Any questions on that, Kathy?
No questions on nails.
Cool. Religious apparel. Now I'm out of my comfort level here, everybody. But this is what I could glean from the rules. Religious apparel may be worn but must not show if you're in uniform. Again, I'm not sure exactly what that means. Religious headgear, similar to what you're seeing in the picture, sorry, got a little typo there, may be worn if approved and if it does not interfere with the safety and mission requirements of what you're doing for the Coast Guard. Okay, so long as it's doesn't interfere with the mission is pretty much. I would refer you to chapter 10 of the auxiliary manual for specifics, but also highly recommend that if you have a member who wears religious headgear on a routine basis and wants to wear it as an auxiliarist, that you check in with the CO or the OIC active duty member for their input and approval. A few odds and ends. I'm working with Carol Kester on another activity, and she asked that I address the national staff device for women. Women and I asked her to send me a picture, and Carol, you didn't send it to me. Darn. It may be worn above the name tag on TROPS, recommended place to wear it. When combined with an aux-op device, the manual states that the aux-op device is then worn just below the name tag. So you have the national device, and I've kind of modeled it for you there a little bit on the screen. The national device goes above the name tag, and the aux-op device goes below the name tag. Another tidbit, in the dinner dress uniforms, and some of you are going to be getting to the point where that's what you're doing. I think somebody just, can you, okay, we have somebody who kicked me out. I'll be right back with my presentation if I can find my mouse. Yeah. Here we go. There we go. Okay. Back to the dinner dress uniform. Women may wear dinner dress slacks with both the blue, which is actually black, dinner dress mess uniform, and the white dinner dress uniform. The alternative, what is typically worn is a black skirt with a slit up the side, and they are allowing dinner dress slacks as an alternative. There's also some question on what kind of shoes can you wear. And I believe flats are now allowed with the dinner dress uniform. And that's kind of a break, because someone asked the question, what are the most comfortable shoes? And my answer is I haven't found any. So hopefully we can get some input from someone who has found comfortable shoes to wear both with the dinner dress uniform and other uniforms that meet the requirement. A little more on basic uniforms. Thanks to Julie for modeling the tropical blue long sleeve shirt, which is approved and authorized for year-round wear, with the female blue tab tie, name tag on the right side, and no ribbons or insignia. I may have that wrong. No ribbons, but now I'm lost. I have to check on that. Everything else is the same for the tropical blue, as you can see, her shoulder boards and so forth. I need to get clarification I was of the impression that there were to be no ribbons, but you could wear a single device. But I may be wrong, so don't quote me. A little bit about the blue blazer. Interestingly enough, I could not find a picture of an auxiliarist, female auxiliarist in a blue blazer, but there are rules. You can wear it. Let me give you just a tiny bit of background very quickly on the purpose of the blue blazer uniform. This is a uniform specifically designed for people who do not meet the grooming standards. If you do not meet the grooming standards and you want to attend meetings and more formal events, that's what the alternative blue blazer uniform is for, men and women. Okay? And I'm sure Steve will clarify that if I'm not right, but up in 9CR, we've had a couple of go-arounds on that, and that's what it is. A little bit about the nylons that go with it. Nylon hose always need to be, or whatever material they are, need to be neutral, no patterns, and no, help me out, seams up the back. Just plain unadorned nylons and plain unadorned shoes are what go with this outfit and most others. So a little bit about the blue blazer. It is not available to my knowledge anywhere in our uniform supply chain. So that would be something that you would need to get made for yourself. Find one, have it tailored and so forth. Undergarments, just a little bit. Okay, gentlemen. T-shirts. The auxiliary manual says we wear them. V-neck T-shirts. I'm wearing one tonight. And to be honest with you, I don't really think that's a bad thing because sometimes women's bras detract from the uniform based on color, and the T-shirt is able to basically act as a filter for colors. But just a tidbit of advice. A black bra probably isn't ever going to go well with a tropical blue shirt. On the other hand, it might be perfect for ODUs. So just keep in mind that the undergarments that we wear should not detract from the uniform. Here again, hose, flesh colored, seamless, no pattern when worn with skirts, black if worn with pants. So that essentially they are very similar to regular socks or hose that you would be wearing with pants. If Kathy, has anybody popped up with a question that I'm missing on this topic?
I'm a little bit awash in questions right now. I'll get back to you.
All right.
All right. Here's a couple. There seems to be some confusion on the shirt, the undershirt. Can you please clarify that a little bit? There's a question, can we wear a white tank top under the short sleeve shirts? What color should the shirt be under the uniform?
I think that the auxiliary manual is very clear. It's a white V-neck T-shirt. And I looked at mine tonight because I think that there might be a question out there on how do I find a shirt that doesn't hang below my uniform sleeve? And I actually find that the Hanes lightweight V-neck T-shirt is just about perfect. It's not heavy. The sleeves aren't particularly long, so you don't have to worry about them showing under your sleeves. But my understanding is that according to the auxiliary manual, we wear them. We wear V-neck T-shirts, and I so understand the desire to wear a tank style or chemise style shirt. I get it. But according to the manual, we wear those. Now, I know that, and this is a great question because when do we follow the manual and when do we follow the Coast Guard uniform regulations? Because it is my understanding that maybe female officers in the Coast Guard don't have to wear the V-neck T-shirt. So we need to put that on our question list. Okay. What else do we have, Julie or Kathy?
I think we'll save the rest of these questions for the Q&A session.
Okay. I'm close to done.
Okay.
Okay, a little bit about the new uniforms, and I'm not going to go long on this because there's still lots of questions. We believe that the Coast Guard utility uniform, the new one, which is lighter weight, great, much nicer material than the heavy material we have in our current ODUs, will be rolling out to auxiliaries in about 3 years. There is on the plate a study being done and a pilot project being designed for an auxiliary alternative uniform, which is specifically designed for people who are not able to wear the new CGU, but also for people who just want to wear it. And that will be being piloted in small groups in 2021. And finally, coming to an auxiliary units near you, and that's every unit in the nation, new grooming standards, and I believe that they're mostly going to affect the guys, are coming your way. So we will be doing training, I'm sure, on the new grooming standards and what they're going to mean for auxiliarists. So just a snapshot into what the future may bring. And here's a list of my references. And with that, Julie, back to you.
All right, thank you. So we are going to now hear a little bit about the Auxiliary Fulfillment Center from Mr. Stan Feldman. Mr. Feldman joined the Coast Guard Auxiliary in May of 1980. He is a member of the 1st Southern District, and he has held offices as high as District Captain and appointed office District Finance Officer. He was appointed to the Coast Guard Association in 1986 and has held positions chairing insurance, member benefits, comptroller, Vice President of Internal Affairs, and Vice President of Financial Affairs. He is currently the Treasurer and Chief Materials Liaison Officer. Mr. Feldman?
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me to present the Coast Guard Auxiliary Association Fulfillment Center to all of our female members. And I happen to notice that we have a lot of our male members are on board. Quick background. As a member of the U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary, we're automatically members of the Coast Guard Auxiliary Association, which is a 501c3 not-for-profit corporation. The association is committed to support of the Coast Guard Auxiliary in handling the finances of the auxiliary and supplying the items needed to perform our mission. National Commodore and Vice Commodore are Chairman and Vice Chairman of the Board of Directors. Our President and CEO is Past Commodore First Southern Vincent Pica, and our Chief Operating Officer is Past District Captain 11 North Jim Losey. So for many years, the association was located in St. Louis, Missouri. This past October, we moved to new quarters in Granite City, Illinois. We are right next door to the Auxiliary National Supply Center, which many of us know as ANSC. We're known by a few names: Coast Guard Auxiliary Association, CGAUXA, AUXA, and now we call ourselves the Fulfillment Center. We're trying to be the mini Amazon. We've got 3 paid employees in Granite City, so if you call, the person on the other end would be either Heather or Hater, and trust me, you'll know this. We carry close to 900 different items in stock. From boating education materials to operational items, to look for items for civilian wear and logo items for civilian wear. In fact, I'm wearing one tonight, so if my camera was working, actually I could put my camera on. So those of you who have a look, this is the brand new Homeland Security weren't for civilian use. It's lightweight, it's really great, and we've been selling a lot of them. Enough of the camera. You can, okay, basic uniform items are ordered or purchased from the Uniform Distribution Center or the Coast Guard Exchange. Your collar devices, your ribbons, your combination hats, buttons, etc., we carry them at Hawks A. There are two ways to order your stuff from, actually there are three ways. The first is to go to www.auxcen.com, put you right into our e-commerce site. Or the other way is to go to www.cgauxa.org, which puts you into the association website. If you go that route, you would click on shop, and that would bring you to the page with the following choices: shirts, uniforms, operational, public education, logo merchandise, and miscellaneous. Going forward, you would look for the items that you need, add to your cart, follow the directions, have your credit card and member ID number handy, and place your order. Now, combination hats. I would call the office, 618-833-5009, to check to see if we have the member combination hat in stock. Considering the number of sizes that we have to carry in combination hats with men's, ladies, then we go to scrambled eggs. We have to carry an awful lot. So I would call the office, give me your size, check to see if it's in stock. So that's the third way of ordering. If not available, you can place your order and we will drop ship it from the manufacturer. Our manufacturer is the same manufacturer that manufactures your Coast Guard hats. Now, in the past, in fact, Commodore Thurlow was mentioning that our district paid $200 for a Commodore's hat. That is probably because they bought it from the exchange, and that was a Coast Guard combination hat. And then they had to strip out the device, the chin strap, buttons, etc., and buy that from us. So I would check with us at the Org Center and see what's available. Now, if you are an officer, Mr. Commodore, Division Commander, and up, that does have to be special ordered. So again, back to the Org Center. Questions?
Can you say that phone number one more time?
Phone number is 618-823-5009.
All right, great, thank you. Otherwise, I'm not seeing anything that needs to be addressed right here. So thank you very much. Something may come up that you have insight on as we go through the Q&A session. So thank you, Mr. Feldman.
I'm here.
So, all right. So we'll take a little bit of time for some questions and answers, which I've been taking notes as we've been going through. I have some questions that were asked ahead of time. And so for this, I am going to introduce, in addition to Mr. Feldman and Commodore Thurlow, I'm going to introduce Mr. Stephen Minitolo. Mr. Minitolo assumed the duties of Chief Auxiliary Administration Branch at the Coast Guard Headquarters in 2004, having just retired from Coast Guard active duty. He's a native of Lindenhurst, New York, and he graduated from the U.S. Coast Guard Academy in 1981 with a Bachelor of Science degree in Marine Science. While in active duty, he earned several awards, including the Defense Meritorious Service Medal, the Coast Guard Meritorious Service Medal, the Joint Service Commendation Medal, and the Coast Guard Commendation Medal. He also earned a master's in public administration from the University of Rhode Island and a master's in healthcare administration from Stratford University. He is married to the former Deborah Dolick of Cherry Hill, New Jersey, and has 3 children, Christine, Pete, and Max. I would also like to introduce Lieutenant Laura Delgado. Lieutenant Delgado graduated the U.S. Coast Guard Academy in 2011 with a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering. She has served on the Coast Guard cutter Harriet Lane as a student engineer, as well as various tours at civil engineering units. She is currently the planning of chief in real property at CEU Oakland. Lieutenant Delgado is also the chair of the Bay Area Women's Leadership Initiative chapter. She has a Master of Science in Civil Engineering from Virginia Tech and lives in Berkeley with her spouse, Lieutenant Brennan Matina, and their pug, Ronnie. So thank you to you both for joining us this evening. So some of the questions that I have, Commodore Thurlow, talked about, what's often the auxiliary perspective on the connection between leadership and wearing the uniform properly. I'd just kind of like to see Mr. Minitolo, Lieutenant Delgado, if you guys have anything that you would like to add on that.
Steve Minitola here. As the saying goes, you only get one opportunity to make a first impression. So, uniform appearance from any member of the Coast Guard family is important, conveys the image, the attention paid, not just to yourself, but to the folks you're dealing with through the uniform. So it's obviously important because it projects the image of the service.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks, Julie. This is Lieutenant Laura Delgado. Thank you all. It's a privilege to be here tonight, chatting with all of you all and sharing perspectives. And yes, I completely agree with all that's been said about the uniforms. And also would just like to add, as a personal anecdote from my own perspective, wearing a uniform is that there's a lot of rules, but a lot of times you kind of have to go with the common sense approach. And I know that that's arbitrary and hard to nail down, and there's problems with even saying that. But I think that, a lot of times you have to put the uniform on and look in the mirror and see what looks right. And sometimes the rules don't always apply to everyone. And so it takes a little bit of judgment and a judgment call that you have to make at times. Most of the times it's pretty straightforward, but there will be a few times when you have to just make a judgment call. And most people understand that if you're trying and you're doing your best, that's pretty good, and we all do really respect it. I'm really just blown away that there's so many people here on this call and so many people who are really paying attention to this topic. It just shows how important it is to you all, and I'm really blown away by that. But anyways, that's just my opening line there, and I'm happy to talk more about specific questions, with the caveat that I am not an expert, but I do wear the uniform every day. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So I've had, we have a lot of gentlemen here, and I've had a lot of, both men and women who've come up to me and they'll say, "Hey, Julie, I've noticed this woman, her unit's not quite right. How should I address this?" Especially for the men, what advice do you have, in addition to what was addressed earlier, for addressing women about uniform issues, whether it's hair, color of hose, if some of the more sensitive topics about, if they're not wearing an underblouse, things like that.
Is that a question for me, Julie?
Yep.
Okay.
For you or for anyone? Yep. Anyone who wants to jump in here.
Okay, I'll take it. I think that the most appropriate way for anyone to make a comment is to keep it professional. And so, if something is off or it needs to be fixed, to just say it, and not to make it about a body part or about, something in particular personal, just to say, hey, your cover is askew, or you need to fix your belts, or anything like that. I think just keep it specific, measurable, and not to make it personal, and to make it as professional as possible.
Yeah, and this is Steve Minitolo. If I can piggyback onto that,
Absolutely.
uniform items, uniform discrepancies are absolutely nothing to get into a battle over. I'll tell you what, after my many years working with the auxiliary, here's my elevator speech assessment of it with auxiliarists. Honor, respect, and devotion to duty. Auxiliarists, when interacting with themselves, have honor and devotion to duty nailed. But when it comes to dealing with each other, respect sometimes goes too much by the wayside, and you have to maintain that when trying to do something as minimal as helping somebody correct a uniform appearance. The other thing is, bear in mind, the Coast Guard respects the auxiliary's desire and ability to resolve its problems at the lowest level possible, meaning face-to-face. Anyone, any auxiliarist who sees a uniform discrepancy with another auxiliarist, as Laura indicated, go up to them, respectful, minor, it'd probably be an easy fix, and just make them aware of it, and away you go. That's all it really should take. That's all uniform corrections amongst ourselves should be about. Just, and again, respectful, lowest level, nothing to go to war over.
All right, great, thank you. Before we continue, if I may remind everyone to please mute your microphones and turn off your webcams if you're not speaking. We were hearing someone get their dinner ready, I believe. So, all right. So there were a lot of questions about hair. The chat really blew up when the Commodore was talking about hairstyles. So what, and this one's probably aimed more towards you, Lieutenant. What is the best way, especially for women with longer hair, or what do you often see of members who are wearing their hair such that they can still wear the cover properly?
Sure. So I've had long hair almost the entire time I've been in uniform, and I've found that certain tricks are better, but you got to find what works for you. And so if that means that you have braids, then that's great. If it means that you do a tight bun, then that's great. If it means that I've even used the sock bun method for a little bit. I have a lot of hair too, so it's really thick and it's long, and so I've never been able before when the rule was you couldn't have your bun, it couldn't be bigger than 2 inches or something like that. I've never applied to me. I could never follow that. But I will tell you, no one ever came up to me with a ruler and measured it, and that would have been a little, I think, ridiculous. But as long as I was trying my best, I can't help my hair. You wrap it up as tightly as you can and as professionally as you can. And I usually go for just like a coiled bun. And I try to keep it also to where it's not on your collar, but also to where I can put my cover down on my head. And if that goes to the place where it's slightly hanging over my collar, if I can put my cover on, then I call that a win. So like I said earlier, it's important to look professional, but sometimes you can't follow all the rules because of the way your biology is set up. So do what you can and make I think in my judgment call for those moments, it made more sense to me that I could put my cover completely on my head and not having it sit on top of my head and look silly, than making sure that my bun was an inch off of my collar. So those are the kinds of things that you weigh. And I would say, like I appreciate the fact that everyone cares so much about this, and that's why we're all here. But for me, I don't get too hung up on it if my bun is touching my collar, if it means I can get everything else right and be looking professional.
Great, thank you. And would it be safe to say the same advice would apply for those members who have extremely short hair, either through choice or because they're undergoing cancer treatments?
Definitely. I mean, you got to do what you got to do, and there's rules for short hair too, but it's getting a little bit more wider and more inclusive about different hairstyles. The rules are reflecting that. So if you have shorter hair, that's great. And there's now I see all sorts of short hair styles as long as it looks, pretty neat, and you do your best to make sure that it doesn't look like it's not like spikes or a mohawk, nothing that's very not uniform. So I think the trick with short hair, what I've seen is that people try to have it look uniform as much as possible. So if it's braids, they're uniform braids. If it's short curly hair, it's curly throughout the entire hair. If that makes sense. I know it's hard to kind of ask everybody who's all different and we're all made differently to conform like that, but you try your best and you use your best judgment.
Okay, great, thank you. So a nuts and bolts question for any of the four of you. How do we determine the size of the cover that we need? How's that measurement done?
How do you decide what?
The size of the cover to order, whether it's an 8, a 7, a 9, what is that standard? What's that based off of?
Is it if it's for the combination cap, you measure. What I would recommend is measuring the circumference of your head, because those come in that measurement style. And how to order a ball cap? I don't know. I think most people actually fit within the size medium. Although some people have real small heads, and typically by the time you get to adulthood, probably have a
I think they come in 3 sizes, small, medium, and large, and they have a Velcro in the back.
correct.
Yes, and comment on that about the ball caps. The companies that produce our ball caps, they do run rather small. So, like for my head, I'm a 7 1/4 for the ball cap. But I get the 7 1/4 to 7 1/2 ball cap to fit my head because they do run smallish.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice.
Yep. Thank you, Commodore Slayball. All right. What are the tips and tricks to help get the ribbons and name tags lined up correctly?
There is online a ribbon checker, and that's a savior, I think, for all auxiliarists who deal with ribbons. So if you I'm sure there's a ribbon checker on the HR page of the human resources page of the auxiliary, and that's what you want to use. And if I can put in a plug, pretty much every ribbon that you have earned should be in Oxdata 2. And if you know how to log in and find yourself, they're all in there. And here's somebody else who mentions that they use a device called a Pinit, available on Amazon, and they're great too.
Yep.
And Commodore, if I could cut in there, the for the shirts that don't have pockets, to line those up, I would recommend either a piece of cardboard or even a piece of paper that gives you a 90-degree corner. You line up the long side against your button line, and then that gives you the 90-degree side to match where your pins come through the uniform to match that up with your center line.
Great advice. Excellent.
Can I jump in for a second when I heard the word Amazon mentioned?
Absolutely.
A little bit of a plug, Amazon Smile, which,
Yay.
okay, half of 1% comes back to the auxiliary. And for this past year, how about $7,000?
I've been using it for years. It's great. I'm
Okay.
happy to do it.
Divide that by $24, and you know how many members dues that just paid. So Amazon Smile, let's go for it.
Absolutely, thank you. There were a lot of questions about the belts and the gig lines. What can a member do to help make sure, especially if they're mixing men's shirts and women's pants, or vice versa, women's shirts and men's pants?
Yes.
Is there a way to make sure that no matter what they're doing, it's always right?
And that was a question I had. Hopefully there's somebody out there with more experience in this than me. I'm going to bring up the belt picture, Julie, so that folks
Sure.
can relate to it.
Right. Mr. Minitolo, Lieutenant, do either of you have any advice for us?
Yeah, it's Steve Minitola here. You know, quite honestly, I'm sorry, I can't. I don't have a, because here's what I do. First off, I'm not immersed in all the auxiliary nuances, uniform nuances and policies. I'm just not. And what I would do is go dumpster diving to research what is in the aux manual. And this has kind of been bounced around a little bit, but the fact of the matter is the auxiliary manuals chapter 10 is not all encompassing, absolutely not, and probably never will be when it comes to every uniform nuance for auxiliaries. And what we do when things aren't addressed in auxiliary policy is we default to Coast Guard policy. We go then looking into the Coast Guard uniform regulations to see how the question or the gap might be covered there. So, long answer to how to line up a gig line. I know how to do it for men off the top of my head. I can't speak the same for every combination of uniforms for women. So that's something I would have to go taking a look at.
I can't figure that out either.
This
All
is
right. Oh, go ahead.
is-
I'm sorry.
That's okay. This is Lieutenant Delgado. Yeah, so I wear a women's shirt and the men trop pants when I wear trops. And similar to the other speakers, I am not well versed in auxiliary uniform requirements. So everything that I'm saying is more so my experience wearing it as an active duty member. But I typically line up the fold of the women's shirt, you know, where it opens, where that button cover part of it is, that flap. I usually line that up with the fold over the zipper of the men's pants. So that's like one line, and that usually lines up with the belt buckle as well. So where you put the belt buckle on the pants, the men's trow, I line up that line with the women's shirt. So it looks like a continuous line, even though it may not be the same for what the men wear if you do a men's shirt and men's pants, or what the women do with the women's shirt and the female pants, if that makes sense. I know it's kind of hard to describe, but it's kind of like that picture there on your screen. You line up, if you look at the zipper part, that seam lines up with like the opening part of the women's shirt if you were to mix the men's trow and the female shirt.
Thank you.
All right, great, thank you. Yeah, and the auxiliary manual doesn't address this, and so this is one occasion where we would refer to the COMDTINST instructions for the active duty. So thank you.
And I'm not sure if it's in the manual, this specific situation. It just looks better if you line it up like that rather than lining it up on the gig line, because then your shirt would look very strange and askew. So this just looks like it's all straight in one line.
Perfect.
All right, great. Thank you. Well, we're coming upon 8:30, so if I'm going to ask everyone for some closing comments, starting with Lieutenant Delgado. I'll let you go first.
Okay, I just wanted to make one more comment on another with the untucked blouse ODU. I mean the untucked trop blouse. I'm not sure if this is for the auxiliarist as well, but what I know a lot of folks do in the active duty side is they get the magnetic name tag and ribbons, and then you can slide it around and you can go put it on, look in the mirror, and then you can see and line it up, and then that's a little easier because you don't have any pockets to line it up on. So instead you kind of have to line it up over your own biology. So it's much easier because everyone's different to just look in the mirror with the magnetic ones and kind of slide it around a little bit. And then I see another comment about proposed new auxiliary uniforms. I have no idea what that is, so I'm sorry, I don't have any information on when the auxiliary will get new uniforms. But
I will speak to that.
okay. So just, yeah, thank you so much for having me on here. It's a privilege to speak with all of you all, and it's really exciting to see so many people that are really passionate about this. And so thank you so much to Julie and for the rest of the team for putting this on.
Great. Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Minitolo, do you have any parting comments?
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation. Thanks to everybody that's been on, that's still on. Great opportunity, and quite honestly, it's a tough subject matter. Uniform appearance. I tell you what, as Commodore Thurlow will also attest, and my boss, Commander Ed Cruz at headquarters, we're immersed. The one thing about auxiliary uniforms, immersed in the auxiliary's transition to the Coast Guard utility uniform. That'll take place over the course of the next 2 to 3 years. And it's coming. Some of you may have tuned into the national board meeting last weekend. We're able to get a sense for what that new uniform, what the auxiliary version of it will look like. But the other half of the equation is a thing called the alternate work uniform, AWU, which is under development. It's principally going to be an alternate work uniform to the Coast Guard utility for auxiliaries, and for those who literally cannot fit into the available sizes. The alternate work uniform would also become an alternate work uniform, an optional uniform for all auxiliarists. I can't tell you exactly what missions, circumstances, activities, and competencies it'll be authorized to wear in, because we're not there yet, but it is under development. It's basically the first uniform the Coast Guard is creating, and will be authorizing, first new full uniform authorized for the auxiliary in I don't know how many decades, I guess at this point, but it is underway. I'll describe it as informal, approachable, and hopefully, presumably, a lower cost uniform option, because it boils down to polo shirt and khaki type appearance. All right, just heads up, and there will be a pilot program that'll get underway in a couple of auxiliary regions, I believe 4 South and 8 Coastal, in another couple of months, and testing out options with considerations for how should women wear it, what should it look like, common denominators between versions for men, versions for women, that kind of a thing. That's all stuff to be developed, assessed through a pilot program, and we'll figure it out and keep it going from there. But it is coming. I'm sure, as I've seen some of the comments, folks have obviously heard about it, and that's about the best we can tell you right now. So, thank you for the opportunity, and keep looking good.
Great. Thank you for coming. Finally, Commodore Thurlow, do you have any parting comments?
Sure. Give me a chance to speak, and I will. But thanks, Steve. You stole all my thunder on the alternative uniform, so I don't have to speak to that. But I do want to speak to what happens if we change uniforms. things that I think you can look forward to are the ability to wear the current ODU as long as it's serviceable uh, in the foreseeable future, let's say that. They're not going to be making us buy any new uniforms. I can also share with you that the tropical blue uniform is not in any kind of question. This is a uniform that we are honored to wear and will continue to wear going forward as I understand it. And as Steve mentioned, we've been working on this alternative working uniform for 17 months so far, and Commodore Formato is on the call with us tonight. He and I are working on that with the Chief Director's office. This is not easy, and we are trying very, very hard to consider the diversity issues that we've some of which we've talked about tonight. And I think I'm seeing, if someone can help me out here, that the hair issue, as far as how short can someone wear their hair, I assume meaning a female, I'm going to answer that and say it's not in writing. Wear your hair the way you want to wear your hair, subject to the guidelines that we've given you, so that it's the same length all over or style. So I don't think that that's a question that we really need to spend a lot of time on. I've also been asked to share the presentation notes tonight. Glad to do it. I think we will be doing that, won't we, Julie?
Yes, ma'am. It'll come through the Alumni Association, much like the invite to this meeting.
Okay. Then finally, I would just like to share the sentiments of some others here tonight, and that is thank you for being here. Thank you for being interested. Thank you for being willing to learn and for your wonderful questions. And if there are things that we weren't able to get to answer for you tonight, let us know, because we want our members to understand the uniform and to really enjoy wearing it. I want to give my personal thanks to Commodore Slava, who fielded a lot of questions I noticed in the chat, and to Julie Carey for her setting this up and doing the heavy lifting, as it were, to make this meeting happen. Congratulations, Julie.
Yep, thank you. And for my parting comments, thank you to the Women's Leadership Initiative. Monica Hernandez, who is the president of the national organization, was on the call with us, and obviously Lieutenant Delgado. And also we need to recognize the Alumni Association. They've done a lot of work for us to help get registrations done and links sent out. So we really appreciate them. If you would like to find out more about the WLI, be part of trying to help develop an auxiliary chapter, please contact me. I'm in Aux Officer. I'll also quickly put my email here in the chat box. And I'd be happy. We can see who's interested and see what we can get going. So thank you very much, everyone. So, and Commodore Thurlow, if you could just hang on 1 second, I have a question for you.
Sure, I'm going to stop the recording now.
Yes, please.
Oh, you beat me to it, sir.
Well, you can do it.
Well, I gotta do it because I'm having trouble with my fingers.
You are. Stop recording.